Welcome back to In Depth here on Scene TV. My name is George Davis, and I'm continuing my conversation with the Member of Parliament for Central St. James in Jamaica, Heroy Clarke. He's the former councillor for the Rose Heights Division in St. James, so he has a political experience at the macro and now at the micro level, from parish council to the big house, Gordon House, Duke Street in Kingston. Heroy, we're here talking about the situation in Central St. James and in the parish broadly and your plan. Now, we delayed your plan somewhat in the terms of discussing the details. May have frustrated a few people, but now we get right to it. I've said it's a PISA, right? Prevention, interception, suppression and assessment. Good. Take me through the individual letters. P, the prevention. What's that?
Prevention is the referring of services, programs of activities designed to prevent people from joining gangs. And that is foremost, that's paramount, that is number one.
So in practical terms, under the prevention aspect, what do you want to see done under that heading?
My intention or my opinion is to have this program introduced into the high schools. Because we understand that you don't start at the branch, you start at the root. And therefore, lo and behold, that many of that information, many of the ideas comes out of the high school setting. And therefore, we have to reach out to members of the school communities. We have to get the uniform groups as much as possible involved. The government of the day, whosoever they are, we'll have to make sure that resources are pumped into the school if we are going to ever think of putting a lid on crime. Therefore, you have to teach the youngster to stay away. You have to show him the difference. Why I am not supposed to be in gang? Why is it benefiting? Why is it better for me? And understanding the nature of St. James Central. My constituency is 77% informal. You have the Canterbury, you have the Railway Lane, the Barnet Lane, the Hart Street, the Barracks Road, you have the Rose Heights, you have the Capitalites, you have the Salt Spring with different or more communities amongst it. And therefore, it is peculiar. It is far and beyond. And a lot of persons will want to say that, oh, they are savage and all of that. They're very, very human beings. They're lovely people who wants to see change, but is reaching out and is crying out to say, give us a chance.
But hear me now, but I'm curious that you've said that the prevention, under the prevention aspect, you want resources pumped through the high school, because the contention is that those youngsters who you have to worry about in terms of future gang activity as adults or even gang activity as teenagers, that they are not in the school system. So it is those outside of the school system that the resources need to be pumped towards.
They were a part of the school system, but there's nothing there right now encouraging them to stay a part of the school system. So they find it necessary, they find it more feasible to drop out of school. I am saying that we have to put the program in place that will encourage them to stay. And this is where the cadets, the scout,
4-H clubs,
the 4-H clubs, everything that will encourage them, give them time to be youngsters.
But hold on now. On the issue of prevention, there are many stories of young boys, well, not even say young boys, of boys from Montego Bay, 15 years old. You have been a businessman for a while now. You're not an old man. But there are boys 15 years old who have built houses bigger than the house that you live in now, who are driving cars much more expensive than the ones that you probably dream about at night. And so the lure of the fast money from the criminal activity, Heroy, is always going to be stronger than any program you can put in place in schools. What then?
But there are still youngsters in school, George, who even though their peer, somebody who they grew up with, go to primary school with, who dropped out of high school, they see them every day driving a car now, but they are still steadfast because they might have a family setting that speaks to civility and discipline, and they follow that line. I am saying that under the prevention program, we are to implement the programs that will give them that chance to interact so that they are not lured away And at the same time, remember, we still have the state enforcers, the police, the JCF, who has a job and a role to play, and they must play it to the best of their ability.
So you're saying that the prevention aspect of your 4-point plan to turn around the crime situation in St. James, you're saying that that prevention aspect is potentially strong enough to act as a viable and a more attractive alternative to the youngsters than the fast money of the criminal world?
I'm saying that that program, if implemented within the school, will start to capture, if it's at least one person at a time, it is one less person that you have to deal with where the fast money is concerned. The police will deal with those who are already out there.
Interception now. What's that about? What's that aspect having
intervention seeks to draw those who have already gone beyond the borders to try and to bring them back. So you intercept them at a certain point. So they're planning, where they are planning, you intervene. This is where the PMI group, the CSJP, the church group, the youth group will come in and say, okay, we understand that you think that this is the best way. It is not. Look at the long-term process. Because remember, in the beginning, I said to you, it is not a short fix, It is going to be a long-term, sustainable program. So we look at something 20 years down the road.
So intervention now, you're depending on the CSJP, the Citizens for Justice program, the Citizens Support Justice program, and the PMI, the Peace Management Initiative, the church. But hold on. The agencies, such as the Department for International Development in Britain, DFID, have for years contributed significant sums of money to community policing and to state organizations that are in the business of providing an alternative to young men who've turned to crime. But many people argue, with some justification, Heroy, that those monies have not been best spent. And whereas you have a budget, I'll give you an example, of say $2 million for the program, administration alone, the wages of the persons who are working on the intervention program, that alone is 1.2 million. So you only have 800,000 to spend on the real deal.
So George, you and I are on the same page. Now you understand that we have to revamp. We have to make sure that as much as that possible, resources get out there on the ground rather than stay in the office. And that's what I'm saying to you. And therefore, we now have to employ young leaders, create a young leaders council within your communities. And you have to say to that youngster, CSJP is doing it on a small scale. You have to expand on it. You are going to be my eye and ear. You are going to be my voice. You are going to send my message. You are going to get the response and take back to me because you are already living in that community. One of the problems that we have over the years, as I was saying before, is that many of the persons who are employed are persons who are employed from another community. I am saying to powers be, employ more of those who live within the community. Engage them. Say to them, I will give you this if you provide me with this. There are youngsters within Canterbury. We have doctors from Canterbury.
Yes.
We have doctors from Roseites. We have a Dr. Miguel Johnson who is doing very well in Kingston here, who comes from the bowel of Roseites. We are saying to youngsters that rather than drop out of school and go try find a menial job with your how many subjects, we are saying continue. But while you continue to study, you have to give us community service.
Intervention. I notice under intervention, and we're going to move to the next aspect very quickly, but in the intervention, under the intervention umbrella, I don't see you make any mention of the importance of family, of parenting. Clearly, if you're going to intervene with someone who has strayed from the straight and narrow, you're going to have to enlist and co-opt the support of the parents, those who remain in the household, to bring that youngster back.
I might not have captured it in this short,
in your brief,
in the brief. But it is a holistic approach to the situation because parents will have to play a role. Because I am a firm believer of community parenting. And I am saying that Jamaica or many communities need to go back to community parenting.
And by that you mean where every
is
adult is
responsible
the mother
for the
and
child.
father of every child in that community.
Because what is happening today? Oh, I know my pitney, something of business with him. But he's doing something wrong. And we need to speak out about it as adults because, as I said earlier to you, today for me, tomorrow for you.
Suppression, what's that aspect having to deal with?
Suppression is to the enforcement, sorry. This is where the police and the other agency comes in because we now have to suppress their activity. So we have to get it in a state of, first and foremost, the police has to get to a point of shock and awe. You have to create something that will shock them at first.
But will shock and awe not run the risk of trampling on people's civil liberties, Heroy Clarke?
No.
And their freedoms?
I don't think
You
so.
don't agree?
I don't agree.
Well, contradict me. How not? How will it not?
Because what the police will do is to go after those. And it has to be done in a way that you don't do the same thing that you're now saying that I'm contradicting. Because there are always ways and means of to shift or sifting out.
But you've made mention of the Bail Act in your brief about this crime plan. And you've said that you want to, as best as possible, the police to act within the confines of the Bail Act. But if you say shock and awe, then clearly you're going to be faced with a situation where persons accused are going to be held for longer than is constitutionally dictated. That's an infringement upon civil rights and freedoms. Don't forget chapter the Charter of Freedom and Fundamental Rights.
Judge, we have to give something to get something.
So answer me
and
clearly.
Therefore,
we are in this issue is in the media. So you're saying under suppression that if it helps, you want shock and awe. But if it is that civil rights are trampled and freedoms are restricted, you'd support it?
I'm saying that find the best possible pathway.
So the best possible pathway here is to suppress and to restrict rights. You would.
So that as minimal as possible.
Minimal, yes, but
as minimal as possible.
Heroy, we're talking inches here. If it is
Judge,
that civil rights are to be trampled
through the raindrops, you know.
No,
remember.
you are.
So,
you are the representative. I'm the journalist. I'm saying to you that you can say it. You're saying that it's not that you are advocating the wholesale curbing of rights, but where they have to be for a change to be effected, you support
and person
that.
will accept.
And persons will accept.
So
within suppression,
all I'm asking that when the JCF, the state agencies, are carrying out their job, that they do it in the best possible way, with courtesy.
Hear you on that? Those are your words. Assessment.
Those are my words.
The final aspect.
Assessment is to sit at the table and to
who at the table?
All agencies, all persons, authorities, the church, the youth groups, the schools, the police personnel, the political representative, whether it be general or local.
Yes. On both sides of the fence.
On both sides of the fence. Because it is not just for one side, it is for all of us.
Yes.
We want to see the betterment because the economical gain from all of this, is that more investment will eventually take place.
But they say, that where collaboration on crime is concerned, you won't have the kind of political cooperation that you are aiming for because, hold on, if your rival doesn't participate in talks and doesn't contribute to the solving of crime, they can then, at election time, use the issue of your failure to preside over a constituency where crime is at an acceptable level as a stick with which to beat with the campaign.
And we must move away from that thought process.
But the political one-upmanship is real.
We must move away from, and it is for that why I am crying out for an anti-gang strategy, which will include my opponent, myself, my friends, and every single soul that thinks civility and discipline, law-abiding. Because as we are saying, we are up against crime.
A monster. We only have 2 minutes, Heroy Clarke. Let me get to this point now. A former Prime Minister of Jamaica, a former leader of the Jamaica Labour Party, gave a brilliant quip many years ago. It's gone down in folklore now. It takes cash to care. With your 4-point plan, and you're advocating of resources to be allocated to various levels of the societal and community structure, where's the money going to come from?
We're asking private sectors to come on board because they too have a vested interest.
Private sector to foot the bill?
A part of the bill, because government also has a role to play.
And what will you do as a representative
Because
to ensure?
where
what will you do as a representative
where
to
private
ensure?
sector is coming in, it's not really maybe at times just to give the cash to be spent, but also, okay, we have captured one youngster who have decided, okay, I have done my time on that side. I need to walk a straight and narrow way. We're asking private sector to say, okay, interview, assess, and to give this youngster a chance in life. That is to provide a job.
And you'll use the powers of your office to ensure that where project funds are presented by overseas entities to local NGOs for spend, the bulk of it is not spent on wages, salaries, and motor vehicles for those administering the program.
I will be a clear advocate against such.
Heroy Clarke, thank you. It was my
very
pleasure speaking with you on In Depth. All right, join us again another time for another exciting episode of In Depth right here on Scene TV, the choice for the best of Caribbean news, sports, and entertainment.